my next question. Do you know what he fought for?
Freedom.
Civil rights.
Civil rights. Civil rights.
What kind of civil rights?
He was like colored president of South Africa. So probably South African Republic, he fought for the freedom, democracy of, let's say, local people.
Native people. Blacks.
Okay.
Colors.
Then, do you know what's apartheid?
Yes.
What is it?
It is regime. It is a regime of power in South Africa.
What kind of regime? Okay, that's my job to tell you.
It's a power. It's a power of white. It was a power. It was the power of white people in South Africa.
Yes. So apartheid is a racial segregation of white and black people, and in this regime, black people had few rights, if no rights. Black people could not travel into the cities. They had to live in their like small villages with no electricity, no sanitation, and they could visit big cities where white people lived only with the permission, special permission to serve white people. And Nelson Mandela saw that it wasn't right, and he had supporters who also saw that it wasn't right. So they were organizing peaceful protest actions against this regime, but it wasn't very successful. So Nelson Mandela thought that he could use weapon, he could use violence to fight this regime, because when they were protesting peacefully, the government would oppress them, they would shoot them, and they saw that they need another strategy to fight the regime. So Nelson Mandela was called a terrorist for using violence, for like organizing people in African National Congress, and he had to serve in prison for 27 years. And in a prison, white and black people were also segregated, and black people got less food than white people. And Nelson Mandela later, when he was released, said that in prison he didn't have access to any media publications, so he would seek little pieces of newspaper in the trash, so that he could read and know what was going in the world, what was going in his country. And when Nelson Mandela served 27 years of prison for organizing people to protest against the regime, against apartheid, when he was released finally, he said, "As I walked out the door towards the gate that would lead to my freedom, I knew that if I didn't leave my bitterness and hatred behind, I would still be in prison." So he came out of prison as a free person. He didn't have any hatred, but he fought peacefully, and he became the first black president of South Africa. And later he said, "In my country, in South Africa, you are first called a terrorist, and then you become the president of the country." He is also famous for overcoming, for fighting big social problems like poverty, bad education. He was fighting for education for all people, for equal opportunities, no matter of your race, color, nationality, or anything else. So, and my question to you is, do you think violence is justified in a case that you have to fight for common good, you have to fight for freedom, for democracy, or against despotic regime, against tyranny? Do you think that you can use violence to fight these bad things. Any volunteers? Andrei, please. Thanks.
Good evening to everyone. So, question was about violence.
Yeah, do you think it's
It is justified, but if I may ask, before who justified? I think violence is not justified at all before God. At all, maybe, according to beliefs. But I think that violence is justified if you're speaking about our society. If you're speaking about in the context of country, when violence is served or violence is used to oppress people, then there were a lot of examples in history when people just was forced actually to use violence because there was it was the last resort to be free by using violence. But violence, I think, it's not called violence. It's called just a white word, maybe. Let's not call it violence. Let's call it, because violence was used for them. Upon them, it was a violence. But they just wanted to be free, and they just fight for freedom. And this is not violence. This is a right of every person to survive.
Thank you, Andrei. I will paraphrase my question a little bit. I meant, do you think it is possible to use violent means of fighting for freedom if peaceful means that don't work? That's what I meant. Anyone else would like to express their opinion, his or her opinion? Sure.
Hi guys, my name is Tom. And violence here, you mean violence was at that time, yeah, when it was really difficult. It was like to protect our country. If it is to protect our country, we have to go to violence to protect ourselves, yeah? But, you know, if it's a peaceful place, for example, if we're living in a country where there is no need to make a violence, I don't think that there is use in using violence here.
Makes sense.
So yeah, I remember one person once said that it's a different situation. For example, a person is being beaten by somebody, yeah, and in this place, at this situation, if you help that person by your force, but by if you make action, it's good. It's the best way to help that person. If you can't help that person that way, you should say something. Secondly, yeah, don't do it. And if you can't do that, you should at least to think about it. What a bad situation that is happening there. And I think anyway we should take some actions. If you are seeing some in-judgments, or say like this, we have to take actions, but use less violence.
I like Morgan saying that we should take action. But it's not be careless, but take action. Okay. Anyone else would like to express opinion? Sure.
Well, I think that violence is not a really good thing. But on the other hand, according to history, it's not really possible if you have a clear agenda, if you have a clear goal, not to use violence. I mean, any government will not provide any changes. Government is organized. So if you have to make any change for your people, you have to use violence. On the other hand, you have to have clear, realistic goals. I mean, if you don't have any realistic goals, nobody understands you. For example, like terrorists, they don't have any realistic, clear goals, so nobody listens to them. So I mean, it is in general, it's better not to use violence at all. But when you use it, you should have clear goals, and everyone to be able to implement them in the future. Thank you.
Who knows what would happen if Nelson Mandela didn't use violent means of fighting against apartheid regime? Maybe the racial segregation wouldn't end at that time. Okay, so anyone else would like to please say?
Roshana, and you raised a very interesting question, so I'd like to share my comments about that. I have attended some Christian school in my childhood, and the first thing which has come into my mind when you asked this question was the words of the Jesus Christ which I read in my Bible. I'm not really a religious person right now, but I had just to attend the school, which basically taught us to be very merciful. For example, there was a saying that if somebody tries to hit you on the left cheek, what you have to do is to give your another cheek, so that the person will basically realize that his deeds were not really very well, and and come to a very good conclusion. I think that what Jesus Christ was trying to tell in his message, and what Nelson Mandela, as well as just David also mentioned, what about Mahatma Gandhi, because he also was the one who was practicing the principle of non-violence. And in fact, in India, I think it calls ahimsa, and it really helped, and really moved many people. But you know what? I'll probably this time will take a different stand, because looking at the way the population is growing and developing, I'm getting more and more skeptical about that, because do I really want to give my right cheek when somebody tries to hit my left one? Will it always be, really very helpful in this situation? I don't think it is really like it's really going to help me, because you have to really look at the opponent who is trying to attack you, and you also have to look at the, the main goal, the grand scheme of things, what you're trying to achieve with your message. I think you have to really be very sensible and trying to be very proactive. Now here, I'm not saying I'm pro-violence, but I'm just saying that there are actually not only two, but there are more. I have a friend, a philosopher, who's recently trying to, participate in my project, and basically she was trying to teach my colleagues in my office and my NGOs, because I'm from the NGO sector, that in order to get their voices heard in the government, there are more than 240 ways to interfere without violence. So what I'm trying to say is that try to be more creative. Violence is not always the good thing, but it should not be black and white. It should be probably the creativity which we have to look at and try to use it in our situation. I think I have a red flag and I really have to shut up. But basically, this is what was my point.
So I will repeat my question. So my question was, do you think that violent means of fighting for freedom can be justified? And this is the last call for anyone who would like to express his opinion. Can you speak in Russian? No. Okay. Sure.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Lina, and it's a great privilege to speak in front of the permanent members of Almaty Toastmasters Club. And I think violence is a language, is a kind of language when we talk with the criminal people, with the organized criminal organizations. And I think it's like language. When we talk with the foreigners, we speak on their language to try to understand. But the language of criminals and organized criminal groups is a violence. So we have to be ready to use their language when it is necessary. Thank you.
What was your name, sorry?
Yerman.
Yerman? Okay. Thank you for everyone. Thank you everyone who expressed his or her opinion. But if you have other opinions, you can share that online. So my next question is kind of similar. So, if Nelson Mandela fought for the equal rights of black and white people, for what cause would you fight today? Is there any cause that should be, do you have any cause to fight for? And if yes, what cause would that be?
Such a provocative question.
It can be anything. It can be just like against pollution.
For us.
Yeah. Okay. I will skip this question.
There are no rebels here.
You can tell your.
I'm a journalist, so I'm not allowed to speak about my opinion. I can only ask about. Okay. So I have a less violent question. Nelson Mandela said, "Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world." Do you agree? And if yes, why? If not, why? Sure, people.
Well, I think it's directly related with my profession because I'm an English teacher and I have my language center, and it was Mandela's opinion, right? So
Yes.
I agree with his opinion because, of course, it doesn't work fast and quickly, but it's a long-term project. Education really can change and make great changes in our society, in minds of many people, but it takes time. For example, if you take Japan, 2 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, there was an earthquake and there was a big disaster. But what was very interesting, I was shocked. Even there's something going on, they don't have houses, they have lost everything, and they're waiting in special shops or special places where they can get food to eat, to survive. And they were standing on the line without quarrel, without shouting, without making any kind of troubles, waiting their turn, in such a harsh situation. If it happens in our country, okay, if it happens in other countries, let's say, let's say Central Asia, let's take it more global. I think we can observe, or we'll be eyewitness of quite different thing. So I think it has directly related with the education of people, their values. How can we, let's say, develop values in people from early ages? Of course, kindergarten, school, college, lyceum, or university. Thank you very much. That's it.